Welcome back to Tech, Tesla, and Trends. Tonight, we're going to discuss an upside down electric grid. And why are we going to do that? Because of a little known company called Tesla and their energy division. Many people think that that particular division within Tesla is a bad business deal that Elon picked up because his cousins weren't quite as capable of running a business as he would be. I, on the other hand, believe that there was a bit more forethought in this particular venture. Again, this comes down to that multi-dimensional chess game that Elon plays in his mind, and it's very important to think about from this perspective. So this one is going to bounce from a couple of different angles. We're absolutely going to cover that multi-dimensional chess game, and then touch base a little bit on superpower, which is a concept that Tony Seba likes to talk about, and I believe that there's some potential there for a bold and very interesting future as far as your electrical grid is concerned. I also am going to touch base on the whole grid 1.0 through 4.0 concepts that is pretty common within many of the government agency, the multi-letter acronym crowds, and then also a number of articles that come out of IEEE and some of the others. So starting with the multidimensional chess game that is in Elon's head here. Part of what I believe Elon sees is that future that Tony Seba is talking about, where superpower is available, i.e., there is more power generated by the grid than can actually be effectively utilized at the current size that it is, which enables energy rates to be decreased. Now, the reason that can occur is because there is sufficient battery supply to store the massive amounts of energy that is being generated through solar and wind, and probably some geothermal and other carbonless generating options. So, keeping that in mind, understand that while many people don't believe that we will ever have sufficient amount of battery to back up the grid, that is not consistent with the cost curves that exist within the battery world, especially as you look at Panasonic and quite a number of other companies, even Tesla, building new battery factories. I mean, Tesla just rolled out their Lathrop, California facility that's going to kick out 25 megapacks a day. And when you think about that, that's pretty crazy. The point being that there is a significant amount of battery capacity that is going to be deployed, or that is deployable within a matter of a decade. Now, once that occurs, once that deployment of batteries is ubiquitous across all of the world, it changes the structure and nature of the grid. The thing to keep in mind is that this green revolution that's occurring is not a plug-and-play friendly variant of, or plug-and-play friendly with the grid that we have today. By and large, your solar and wind they cause some troubles. They ebb and flow, and they're unpredictable, and without a battery, you have a very difficult time maintaining a solid flow of electrons, and that really does. It's detrimental to the overall wider grid, which is why batteries are a critical component within the grid and its maintenance. Now there's lots of resources out there, and I'll add a few of them into the notes here. But keep in mind that without the battery, all of the green energy is really problematic at best. They don't have the capacity to stay online 24/7, which is what our modern grid is designed to do. It's designed to respond to spikes and dips within that 24-hour period, but at the same time, it requires a consistent load that is being maintained through mostly natural gas turbines or coal plants. A handful of nuclear, which, for crying out loud, it's crazy that we don't have more of. The paranoia that exists within some worlds is pretty strong, and I believe highly unfounded given today's nuclear technologies. That's just one of those things from, my generation was greatly paranoid when it came to Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island and then the events of Fukushima and some of the other things that have occurred have left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth when it comes to the overall effectiveness of nuclear. But the reality of it is, don't build nuclear where you're going to have accidents, and build your plants to a higher quality than what was occurring within Soviet Russia. That just the Soviet portion of the Ukraine there where Chernobyl was there was a lot of corners cut in that particular one from the after action reports that I've read. So it comes down to us being smart about how we operate generating sources. Now, solar is a wonderful opportunity. There's enough sun that impacts the earth on a daily basis to truly power the earth. This isn't wishful thinking, but our ability to capture that amount of solar and also to store that solar is still in a very limited capacity, which is why the need for ramping of batteries is so critical. And also, along the way, you've got the solar panels that are, the whole PV, the photovoltaics is rapidly evolving and innovating. So there will be more that comes along there technologically as well that improves this overall capture process. And from a standpoint of wind as well, I'm not really a great windmill fan, but dad joke there. But it still, nonetheless, there's a potential for windmills as well. They have their place, offshore especially. Some of that and some of the tidal opportunities that exist around the world. There's definitely a lot of opportunity for carbonless generation, and there's some wonderful technologies out there that will be able to feed into this large battery grid storage that will exist. And then how that works and turning the grid upside down, because right now the grid, it flows outwards from a central generating station out into your grid level substations, and then down into your distribution level substations, and from there down through the transformers and into your home through the meter. Now, when we flop that on its head, what that means is that our homes will actually become the generating sites of the future, and we will become distributed energy resources. So will be that whole disruptive technology will occur at our homes and then be fed back into the grid, and that will provide a lot more of that opportunity. Now, in looking at how this all transitions from a multi-dimensional chess game, that's going to be as it looks like for timing on this particular episode, I'm going to have to move that till to the next episode. But the thing to keep in mind for what the grid and standing the grid on its head impacts and brings about is that 60%, probably closer to 70% eventually, of all energy transactions between homes is going to occur at that local level, between two homes having a conversation through, probably at that level, it's either going to be Opticaster or AutoBidder or something like unto that, that Tesla's running at a level for the entire system to talk back and forth. And then it'll feed up to probably the transformer level, the green boxes out in front of your homes. I suspect that those will either change format and become batteries of some format, or they will have a mixture of storage or some form of capacity there for transforming. There's something that's going to change at that level in my mind as I look at how standing the grid on its head will play back. There's the potential for that particular one. It may stay as a transformer, and that battery will be that whole communication portion, I guess, is what I'm seeing, because the battery exists, but you got to be able to talk and store and transit, and something will occur at that transformer level within your community, and it'll be a conversation between your house and your neighbors, and back and forth, and you have a priority of how much you need. They have a priority based on the excess that they have because they're on vacation for 2 weeks and they're able to sell to the grid without any restrictions. So, and you might have a big old party planned for all night long because they're off on vacation. So it just depends. But each component, each AI that will probably be integrated into that conversation will have their priorities that they're seeking to pull out and to achieve, and it'll create some form of a transaction at a local level. And there's a lot more to break out and unpack in this, but suffices to say that we're going to end up with a very different grid layout over the next 20 to 25 years. Some of the resources that exist today are going to end up stranded. And by stranded, I mean that their usefulness to our overall grid is going to be more expensive to utilize than they won't be able to provide us useful energy at a price that we are willing to pay. And at that point, there will be capital that was left unpaid for, depending on how that resource came into be. Some loans in that whole industry are likely to default, and that could be very not interesting from a disruption perspective rather than a good thing for the overall grid. So that's another aspect of this turning the grid onto its head that is going to be playing out. And we're going to have to pay attention to that. And that's not just expecting that our electrical co-ops and companies are going to be wholly responsible for that. We as consumers have a responsibility to start paying attention and interacting more effectively with those that are assisting in maintaining the grid and the overall direction that it's going. So there's a lot here to unpack and to think about and to ponder. And over the years, I think you will be able to see that change will happen slowly initially, but in some areas of the world, they will flat out just skip some portions of the grid development, especially in Africa and some of the Pacific Islands, and probably as the Ukraine rebuilds, well, you'll see some of that occur there as well, because it won't make sense to utilize an older technology when you have the opportunity to install large battery capacities and solar arrays. And so anyways, that should cover it for now. We'll be back tomorrow and discuss some more about how the grid's changing, the multi-dimensional chess nature of that, and then follow up with a discussion probably on superpower and what that really means to the overall long-term nature of Tesla Energy. Have a good night.